The stars shimmered as reality tore open near Jupiter. One by one, massive warships emerged from the bright tiers in space. They were huge, each one the size of a small city. Their metal hulls gleamed under the distant sun. Strange symbols marked their sides, symbols that meant death to hundreds of worlds. Commander Thralvex stood on the bridge of the flagship, his 4 eyes watching the screens with satisfaction. Behind him, 846 more ships appeared, forming perfect rows in the darkness. This was the Krell hegemony's subjugation fleet, and they had come to add Earth to their empire. "All ships reporting successful jump, Commander," said the navigation officer. Her voice was calm, almost bored. This was routine for them. Thralvex nodded. His scaled hand traced patterns on the command console. "Begin deep scans of the inner system. Locate all defensive installations, military vessels, and weapon platforms." The crew worked quickly. They had done this 400 times before, on 400 different worlds. Some species surrendered immediately. Others fought and lost. None had ever won against the Krell. "Commander, initial scans are complete," reported the tactical officer. He sounded confused. "We are detecting nothing." "Nothing?" Thralvex turned, his tail swishing with interest. "No orbital defense platforms, no military fleet, no energy shields around their planet, no weapon satellites. They have some space stations, but they appear to be civilian research facilities." The officer checked his readings again. "Sir, they barely have any presence beyond their own moon." A ripple of amusement passed through the bridge crew. Junior officers exchanged glances. One of them actually laughed. "How long have they had space travel?" Thralvex asked. "Approximately 200 of their years, sir. Very primitive. Chemical rockets, basic fusion drives. Their fastest ships would take months to reach us here." Thralvex felt a small disappointment. He had hoped for at least some challenge, something to test the new officers aboard his fleet. This would be simple. Too simple. "Send the standard message," he ordered. "All languages, all frequencies." The communications officer worked quickly. Moments later, Earth would receive their message. The translation computers would make sure every human could understand it in their own language. The message was simple, the same one the Krell sent to every new world. "You have been chosen for integration into the Krell hegemony. Surrender your weapons, your military, and your government. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. You have 1 standard cycle to respond." In human terms, that meant 43 minutes. The bridge fell quiet. Waiting was always the boring part. Some species begged for mercy immediately. Others took the full time to argue among themselves before surrendering. A few, the stupid ones, actually tried to fight. Thralvex settled into his command chair. Around the fleet, other commanders were, probably making bets on how quickly the humans would give up. It was a common game among Krell officers. On the tactical display, the small blue planet hung in space like a jewel. Earth, the 3rd planet from their yellow star. Scans showed it was crowded with life, with cities, with billions of these humans. But no weapons that could threaten his fleet. "Sir, we are receiving a response," the communications officer said suddenly. That was fast, only 43 minutes exactly. "Put it on speakers." A human voice filled the bridge. It was calm, almost friendly. The translation made it sound strange in the clicking Krell language. "To the Krell hegemony fleet. This is Earth Unified Defense Command. We have received your surrender demand. After careful consideration, we must decline your offer. We choose to remain independent. We strongly advise you to turn your fleet around and leave our system immediately. Proceed at your own risk. Earth out." Silence filled the bridge. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon, the entire bridge crew was making the clicking, hissing sound that served as Krell laughter. "Did they just—" the tactical officer started. "They declined," Thralvex said, a smile forming on his scaled face. "In 400 conquests, no species has ever simply declined before." "Should we destroy one of their orbital stations as a demonstration, sir?" asked the weapons officer eagerly. Thralvex considered it. That was the standard procedure when a species was foolish enough to refuse. But something about the human message bothered him. That phrase, Proceed at your own risk. It implied they had something to risk his fleet with, but the scans showed nothing. Nothing at all. No, he decided. We begin the standard approach. Full battle formation. Shields at maximum. All weapons ready. If they want to play games, we will show them what happens to species who refuse the Krell. Sir, should we send a message to High Command? They will want to know about this unusual response. Yes. Tell them we have encountered mild resistance. Nothing of concern. We expect full submission within 10 standard cycles. The message was sent back through the FTL communications relay, spreading across Krell space. Soon the entire hegemony would know that another primitive species had foolishly chosen to resist. On other worlds, other species monitored the transmissions too. The Galactic Council, that loose organization of the older races, watched in silence. They had offered Earth membership and protection 50 years ago. The humans had politely refused, saying they preferred independence. Now those same humans faced the Krell alone. Begin approach, Thrallvex commanded. Standard speed, let them see us coming. Let them understand what they face. The massive fleet began to move, engines glowing blue in the darkness. They advanced in perfect formation, a wall of death moving toward the small blue planet. Behind them, Jupiter's massive bulk shrank slowly. Ahead, Mars glowed red in the distance. And beyond that, Earth waited. The Krell had conquered 400 worlds. This would be number 401, at least. That is what they believed. The Krell fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts. Day after day, they drew closer to the inner solar system. Their pace was deliberate, slow, designed to give their victims time to realize the hopelessness of resistance. Commander Thrallvex watched the tactical displays obsessively. His crew had begun to notice his unusual attention to detail. Normally, a subjugation mission was routine, barely worth the commander's direct attention. But something about Earth bothered him. Still no military response? He asked for the third time that watch cycle. None, sir, confirmed the tactical officer. We have passed through their asteroid belt. We are now 12 light minutes from Earth. They must see us clearly by now. But there is no fleet mobilization, no weapons powering up, nothing. The weapons officer leaned forward. Perhaps they truly have nothing, Commander. Perhaps that message was just bravado, trying to scare us away with words. Perhaps, Thrallvex said, but he did not believe it. On Earth, the sensors showed increased radio and quantum communications. The entire planet seemed to be talking, signals bouncing between cities, between continents, between orbital stations. But none of it was military traffic. None of it indicated preparation for war. What are they saying? Thrallvex demanded. The communications officer adjusted her translation matrix. Most of it is civilian channels, sir. News broadcasts. Personal messages, entertainment, but the content is strange. Strange how? They are talking about us, sir. But not with fear. Many of them seem almost sad. One broadcast said something about giving them one last chance to turn back. Another said, they should have listened. A junior officer laughed. Sad for us? These primitives think we need their pity? But Thrallvex did not laugh. Something was wrong. He had conquered many worlds, and he knew how species behaved when facing extinction. Some panicked. Some begged. Some fought desperately, but none acted like the humans were acting. They acted like they had already won. Across the galaxy, other species watched the transmissions from both sides. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session. Elder races that had existed for millions of years observed in silence. The Valar, a peaceful species of energy beings, sent a message to the Council. We should warn the Krell. They do not understand what they face. But the Council's speaker, an ancient being called the Curator, refused. The Krell were warned 50 cycles ago not to expand into this region. They ignored us. Now they will learn why the old races do not travel near human space. But the humans are so young, protested another council member. Only 200 years in space. How can they possibly pose a threat to the Krell? The Curator's form shimmered with something that might have been amusement. The humans are young in space, yes, but they are old in other ways. Ways the Krell do not measure. Ways they cannot even detect. Back in the solar system, the Krell fleet crossed another milestone. They passed the orbit of Mars. the red planet floating silently to their left. Now they were deep in Earth's territory, well within striking range of the blue world. Final approach formation, Thrallvex commanded. All ships maximum shields. All weapons armed. If they have any surprises, they will use them now. The fleet tightened its formation. 847 vessels formed a wall of destruction, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. Together, they could reduce Earth's surface to molten glass in less than an hour. Junior officers had stopped laughing now. The closer they got, the more the silence from Earth seemed ominous. Where were the desperate attacks? Where were the last-minute negotiations? Where was the fear? "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from Earth," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." The same calm human voice filled the bridge. "Krell Fleet, this is your final warning. You are now inside the Mars orbital boundary. If you continue, we cannot guarantee your safety. We strongly urge you to reverse course immediately. This is not a threat." "This is a fact," the message ended. "Not a threat." The tactical officer's scales rippled with anger. "We are the threat. We are the ones with the weapons." But Thrallvex felt cold. That voice, that terrible calm, it was the voice of someone stating a simple truth, like saying the sun was bright or space was cold. A fact, not a boast. Deep scan, full spectrum. Every frequency, every energy type we can detect. Find whatever they are hiding. The science team worked frantically. Minutes passed. The fleet continued its approach, now only 2 astronomical units from Earth. They were close enough to see the planet's weather patterns, the swirl of white clouds over blue oceans. "Sir, scan results are complete." There is nothing. No energy weapons, no mass drivers, no quantum torpedoes, no dimensional disruptors, nothing. Their most powerful weapons are primitive nuclear missiles that our shields could stop easily. Thrallvex stared at the blue planet. Beautiful, really. Such a shame to burn it. "All ships prepare for demonstration strike. We will destroy one of their moons to show them we are serious." "Sir," the communications officer's voice was urgent. "We are receiving hundreds of transmissions from other species. The Galactic Council, the Valar Consciousness, the Titan Collective, even the Whisper Minds. They are all saying the same thing." "What?" "They are saying turn back. Turn back now." The bridge fell silent. Other species were warning them? Species that had watched 400 worlds fall without comment were suddenly concerned? "Commander, we are at optimal firing position for the demonstration strike," reported the weapons officer. Thrallvex looked at the displays. His 4 eyes moved from screen to screen. Every tactical reading said Earth was helpless. Every scan said they had nothing. Logic said to proceed, but instinct, that ancient survival mechanism that had kept the Krell alive for millions of years, screamed at him to run. "Hold position," he said quietly. "Sir, hold position. I want one more scan. Full power, active sensors, maximum range. Find what they are hiding." The science team obeyed. The flagship's sensors pushed to their limits, flooding the space around Earth with detection beams looking for anything. Any hint of the weapon that had to be there, they found nothing. "All ships, advance to final engagement range," Thrallvex commanded, overriding his instincts. "We end this now." The fleet moved forward, crossing the invisible line of Mars's orbit, entering the space that humans considered their inner sanctum. And in that moment, 8 billion human minds focused on a single thought: no. It happened in 0.003 of a second. Commander Thrallvex saw his shield indicator begin to flicker. Not failing, not being attacked, simply flickering, as if the universe was uncertain whether his shields existed or not. He opened his mouth to ask what was happening. He never finished the question. The shields did not explode. They did not collapse. They simply stopped being real. One moment they were there, solid barriers of energy protecting 847 warships. The next moment, the concept of those shields existing was erased from reality. The hull plating went next. Molecular bonds that had held together for centuries suddenly forgot how to be bonds. Metal that had survived impacts from asteroids and energy weapons simply became clouds of individual atoms, drifting apart in perfect silence. Inside the ships, crew members had microseconds to register confusion before they too came apart. Not violently, not painfully. They simply stopped being organized matter and became their basic components. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, scattered across space like cosmic dust. The massive fusion reactors did not explode. Explosions require structure. require force acting against resistance. These reactors simply became expanding spheres of hot plasma, their carefully contained reactions spreading harmlessly into the void. Weapons that could destroy planets dissolved before they could fire. Computers that held the collected knowledge of Krell civilization became silicon and rare Earth elements floating free. The mighty engines that could push city-sized ships near light speed became clouds of particles, still glowing with residual heat. 847 warships ceased to exist as warships. They became 847 expanding clouds of atoms, creating a temporary ring around Mars's orbit, glittering in the sunlight like a new asteroid belt. The entire event took 0.003 of a second, faster than nerve impulses, faster than thought, certainly faster than understanding. No debris remained, no bodies, no floating hull sections that might be salvaged. Just atoms returned to their basic state, as if the ships had never been assembled in the first place. In the silence of space, a single transmission reached out from Earth. 2 words, in the same calm voice that had warned them, "We warned you." Across the galaxy, sensors registered the event. The Krell fleet's identification signals simply vanished, not destroyed in battle, which would have shown energy spikes and radiation, not damaged, which would have shown distress signals. Just gone. At the Krell homeworld, High Command stared at their displays in disbelief. The admiral in charge of fleet operations kept refreshing his screen, certain there must be an error. "Get me a communication link to the fleet," he ordered. "Sir, there is no fleet to link to. All signals have ceased. That's impossible. Send a probe. Send 10 probes. Get me visual confirmation." It would take days for probes to reach the location, but other species had sensors already watching. The Galactic Council's observation platforms had recorded everything. The Velar consciousness, beings of pure energy who could perceive reality in ways solid matter could not, sent their analysis to the Council. The ships were unmade, not destroyed. Unmade. The fundamental forces holding them together were convinced to stop holding. This is not technology. This is not any weapon we understand. This is something else. The Titan Collective, machine minds that had existed since before most current species evolved, added their observations. "We detect no energy weapons discharge, no kinetic impacts, no exotic particles, no dimensional rifts. The ship simply transitioned from organized matter to disorganized matter in 0.003 seconds. The precision is absolute. Not a single atom remains bonded to another atom in any molecular structure. It is as if reality itself decided the ship should not be." The council chambers fell silent. Species that had seen billions of years of warfare, that had witnessed supernovas and black holes, that thought they understood every type of destruction possible, suddenly realized they understood nothing about humanity. One of the elder speakers, a being so old its original species name had been forgotten, spoke. "The humans have done what we thought impossible. They have weaponized consciousness itself." At the edge of Krell space, automated relay stations received the news and immediately transmitted it deeper into the Empire. Within hours, every Krell military installation knew the subjugation fleet was gone. Not defeated. Not damaged. Gone. The Krell Empress convened her war council. 400 worlds had fallen to their fleets. 4,000 battles had been won. And now, without firing a single shot, without losing a single ship to combat, without even launching a single missile, humanity had destroyed their most powerful armada. How? The Empress's voice shook with rage and fear. How did they do this? Her science minister pulled up the human transmissions from the past 50 years. Academic papers mostly ignored by Krell intelligence. Theoretical discussions about something called coherence field theory. Research into consciousness and quantum mechanics. Papers about collective human meditation achieving measurable effects on random number generators. "We thought it was philosophy," the science minister said quietly. "We thought it was mysticism. We didn't realize they were describing a weapon." "A weapon we cannot detect," added the military commander. "A weapon that doesn't use energy, doesn't use matter, doesn't use anything our sensors can measure. Can we defend against it? Silence. Can we attack them before they use it again?" More silence. The Empress looked at her council. For the first time in Krell history, they faced an enemy they did not understand, could not measure, could not fight. Back in Earth's solar system, the cloud of atoms that had been the Krell fleet continued to expand. In time, Mars's gravity would capture some of it. Some would drift toward the sun. Some would escape the solar system entirely, becoming part of the cosmic dust that floated between stars. On Earth, in millions of homes and buildings and cities, people slowly relaxed. They removed their neural interface headsets. They opened their eyes. They breathed deeply. 8 billion minds had focused together for less than 4 seconds. That was all it took. 4 seconds of perfect unity, of collective agreement, of shared certainty that the Krell fleet would not pass. And so it did not pass. In schools, children returned to their lessons. In hospitals, doctors continued their work. In offices and homes and farms, life went on. Most people felt only a slight headache, the normal side effect of engaging the mind wall. In Geneva, at Earth Unified Defense Command, the coordinator looked at her team and nodded. Stand down from alert status. Resume normal operations. Ma'am, one of the technicians said, we're receiving thousands of messages from other species. They want to know what we did. How we did it, the coordinator smiled sadly.
Tell them the truth.
We thought together. When 8 billion minds agree on something, reality listens. She paused, looking at the tactical display where the Krell fleet had been. And add this. Tell them we only defend. We will never use this to attack. The mind wall only activates inside Mars orbit. Only when we face direct threat. We are not conquerors. The message was sent across the galaxy, and across the galaxy, empires reconsidered their expansion plans. 150 years earlier, in a research laboratory in Tokyo, Dr. Sarah Chen made a discovery that would change everything. She was studying quantum mechanics, specifically how observation affected particle behavior. It was old science, well understood. What made her work different was her focus on the observer, not the observed. Consciousness creates measurable effects, she told her colleagues at a late-night meeting. Every time a human thinks, their brain generates tiny quantum fluctuations. Individually, these are meaningless, but what if millions of people thought the same thing at the same time? Her colleagues were skeptical. It sounded like mysticism, not science. But Sarah was persistent. She designed an experiment. She gathered 10,000 volunteers across Asia, all connected through neural interfaces to a central computer. At exactly the same moment, she had them all focus on a single quantum random number generator, all thinking the same simple thought. The number will be 7. The generator, which should have produced random results, generated 743 times in a row. Impossible. Statistically impossible. Unless consciousness itself was affecting quantum probability. Sarah published her results. The scientific community exploded with debate. Half called it fraud. Half demanded replication. The experiments were repeated in Europe, in Africa, in the Americas. Always the same result. When enough minds focused together, probability shifted. Sarah called it coherence field theory. The idea was simple. Individual consciousness creates tiny ripples in quantum fields. Billions of consciousnesses, perfectly synchronized, create waves large enough to affect reality itself. The world governments met in secret. If this was real, if this could be controlled, what could it do? Could synchronized thinking move objects, change matter, alter space-time? They formed a research group, hidden from public view with unlimited funding. They called it the Coherence Project. Sarah Chen led it. For 30 years, they experimented. They learned that human will, when unified, could do extraordinary things. 1 million people thinking together could affect the temperature of a room. 10 million could influence chemical reactions. 100 million could alter gravitational fields just slightly. But there were limitations. The thoughts had to be synchronized perfectly, within milliseconds. The intent had to be clear, simple, absolute. Complex thoughts failed. Doubt weakened the effect. And it required technology, neural interfaces that linked minds together into a coherent network. We're building something, Sarah told the project leaders in year 32. She was older now, gray-haired, but her eyes burned with purpose. Not a weapon, a defense. We're building a wall made of thought. The technology improved. Neural implants became smaller, safer, more efficient. They were introduced to the public slowly, marketed as communication devices, as internet access directly to the brain, as medical tools for treating neural diseases. Within 50 years, half of humanity had them. Within 100 years, nearly everyone. Most people never knew the implants had another function, a hidden subroutine, dormant unless activated by Earth Defense Command. When activated, the implants could synchronize millions, then billions of minds into a single coherent field, the mind wall. They tested it carefully, small scale at first. 1,000 minds focusing on a simple target, a metal cube in a laboratory. Think it warm. The cube heated up. Think it still. The cube froze in midair, gravity forgetting it for a moment. Then larger tests, 1,000,000 minds, 10 million. They practiced in secret, usually at night when people slept. The implants would activate, guide sleeping minds into synchronization for a few seconds, then release. Most people never even woke up. Those who did thought they had strange dreams. Sarah Chen died at age 109, just before the mind wall reached full capacity. Her last words to the project: use it only for defense, never for conquest. Power like this will corrupt us if we use it for anything else. By the time the Galactic Council made first contact with humanity, the mind wall was complete. 8 billion people, all connected through neural networks, all capable of synchronizing their consciousness within milliseconds. The Council offered membership, offered protection from hostile species like the Krell. Humanity politely declined. We don't need protection, Earth's representative said. We can protect ourselves. The Council thought it was arrogance. They had no idea it was simple truth. When the Krell fleet entered the solar system, Earth Defense Command activated the mind wall protocols. Across the planet, 8 billion neural implants received the signal. Most people didn't even notice the slight tingle in their minds. They were given a simple instruction compressed into pure concept: ships cross Mars orbit. Ships should not exist. Ships will not be real. 8 billion minds accepted this thought. Not with doubt, not with fear, but with absolute certainty. For 3.7 seconds, 8 billion human consciousnesses agreed on a single simple fact: the Krell ships would not pass. The coherence field generated by that unified thought was measureless. It reached across millions of kilometers, touching every atom of every Krell vessel, and it asked those atoms a simple question: why are you bonded together? The atoms had no answer. Molecular bonds exist because quantum fields say they should. But when 8 billion consciousnesses said they shouldn't, the quantum fields listened to the louder voice. The bonds broke. Not through force, but through consensus. Reality itself agreed with humanity's thought, and the ships came apart. It was not an attack. It was a statement of fact made real by collective will. The ships existed. Then humanity thought they should not. Then they did not. After it was over, scientists studied the aftermath. They analyzed the cloud of atoms that had been the fleet. Every molecular bond had separated simultaneously. Every complex structure had returned to its base components. It was precise, absolute, and left no trace of energy expenditure, because it hadn't used energy. It had used thought. The Galactic Council demanded answers. How had humanity destroyed the fleet? What weapon had they used? Earth sent them Sarah Chen's original research papers, now 150 years old. The theories, the experiments, the development of coherence field technology, all of it was public record, had been for decades. Anyone could have read it. The council members reviewed the information in shock. This shouldn't be possible, said a Valar representative. Consciousness affecting matter at this scale violates everything we understand. Maybe your understanding is incomplete, replied Earth's ambassador. Or maybe humans are just different. We're social creatures. We've survived by cooperating, by thinking together. Maybe our evolution gave us this capability, and we just needed technology to amplify it. The truth was simpler and stranger than that. Humans were not unique in having consciousness, but they were unique in their ability to synchronize it. 8 billion individuals, all different, all independent, all capable of becoming one mind with one purpose when needed. It was the ultimate democracy, the ultimate unity, and now the ultimate defense. Earth made it clear. The mind wall was defensive only. It activated only when hostile forces crossed Mars orbit with intent to harm. Inside that boundary, human collective consciousness was absolute. Outside it, humanity had no power and no interest. We will not conquer, Earth's leaders announced. We will not expand aggressively. We will not use this power to force others to obey us. But neither will we be conquered. The line is drawn at Mars. Cross it with hostile intent and reality itself will deny your existence. Other species began to fear humanity, not for what they had done, but for what they might do. If they could unmake ships, could they unmake planets? Stars, could they reshape reality to their will? But humanity did not test those boundaries. They knew that such power would corrupt them, would turn them into the very things they opposed. So they remained behind their line, watched by the galaxy, respected and feared in equal measure. And the Krell, their empire shaken, withdrew to their own space, reconsidering everything they thought they knew about conquest and power. 3 months after the Krell fleet disappeared, the Empress of the Krell hegemony did something no Krell ruler had done in 4,000 years. She sent a message asking for peace talks, not demanding. Asking. The message arrived at Earth through diplomatic channels. It was polite, careful, almost humble. The Krell wanted to understand what happened. They wanted to ensure it would never happen again. Most importantly, they wanted to know if humanity planned to retaliate. Earth's response was simple. We have no interest in revenge. We acted in defense only. Your ships crossed our boundary with hostile intent. They were removed. If you do not threaten us again, we will not threaten you. The Krell couldn't understand it. By their logic, humanity should now be preparing to invade. They had demonstrated overwhelming power. They had humiliated the Krell. Surely conquest would follow, but it didn't. Earth stayed behind its Mars boundary. Ships came and went, trading with other species, exploring distant stars, conducting research. But no war fleets assembled. No invasion forces prepared. Humanity simply continued its quiet existence, as if erasing an entire armada was just another Tuesday. This confused the galaxy more than the mind wall itself. The Galactic Council convened a full assembly, something that happened only during major crises. Every species sent representatives. The topic, what to do about humanity. They have power beyond our comprehension, argued the Krell ambassador, his scales dull with shame. They could unmake us all. We must find a way to defend ourselves. How do you defend against thought? Asked a Valar. How do you shield against consciousness? They don't use weapons we can detect or block. The Titan Collective's representative, a crystalline machine mind, offered analysis. We have studied the event extensively. The human mind wall operates on quantum consciousness coherence. To defend against it, you would need to prevent billions of minds from synchronizing. This is impossible without committing genocide against the humans. And if you tried, they would simply think you should not exist. You would not exist. The chamber fell silent. An elder spoke, one of the ancient ones who had witnessed civilizations rise and fall. Perhaps we are asking the wrong question. Perhaps the question is not how to defend against humanity, but how to coexist with them. Coexist with a species that can erase us with a thought. The Krell ambassador's voice shook. Yes, the elder said calmly. They have shown restraint. They could have pursued your fleets back to your homeworld. They could have erased your empire. They did not. They simply defended their boundary. Is this not the action of a peaceful species? Slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to accept a new reality. Humanity was not like the Krell or the Titan Collective, or any of the aggressive species that expanded through conquest. They were something different, something stranger. They were peaceful but not weak, defensive but not passive. They would not attack you unless you attacked them first. But if you attacked them, you would simply cease to be. Earth began receiving visitors, not invaders but diplomats, scientists, philosophers. Species wanted to understand how the mind wall worked. They wanted to learn coherence field theory. To everyone's surprise, Earth shared freely. We'll teach you, said Dr. James Morrison, Sarah Chen's successor as head of the Coherence Project. We'll show you how to synchronize consciousness, how to affect quantum fields through unified thought. But we must be clear about something. He paused, looking at the gathered representatives. This technology requires absolute cooperation. Every individual must willingly participate, must choose to synchronize. It cannot be forced. It cannot be weaponized for aggression, because aggression creates doubt and doubt breaks coherence. The only reason it works for us is because every human willingly agrees to defend Earth, not to attack others. To defend, a Krell scientist asked. But could we not simply pretend to defend while actually attacking? Try it, Morrison said. Try to get billions of beings to synchronize on a lie. Try to get them all to believe something they know is false. Try to maintain perfect coherence while harboring ulterior motives. You'll find it impossible. Consciousness doesn't work that way. Coherence requires truth. It requires genuine agreement. It requires trust. The assembled species began to understand. The mind wall wasn't just a weapon. It was a reflection of human society itself. Billions of individuals, all different, all independent, but capable of coming together in genuine unity when needed. Not forced unity, not controlled unity, willing unity. Some species realized they could never achieve this. The Krell, with their rigid hierarchies and forced obedience, could not. The Titan collective, being machines, lacked the organic consciousness needed. Many others were too divided, too competitive, too individualistic. But some could. Species that valued cooperation over competition. Species that had built societies based on trust and mutual support. These species began learning from humanity, beginning the long process of developing their own coherence fields. Earth offered another gift. They established the Mars Doctrine, a set of principles that would guide humanity's use of the mind wall. First, the mind wall activates only in defense, only when hostile forces cross Mars' orbit. Second, the mind wall will never be used for conquest, coercion, or aggression. Third, the mind wall's existence will be openly acknowledged, so no species can claim surprise. Fourth, humanity will teach any peaceful species who wishes to learn. Fifth, if humanity ever violates these principles, any species may hold us accountable. The galaxy watched carefully. Would humanity keep these promises, or would power corrupt them like it corrupted so many others? Years passed. Decades. Humanity kept its word. The mind wall remained defensive only. When a rogue species called the Zethran sent raiders toward Earth, the raiders vanished at Mars' orbit. When the Krell, still bitter, tried to develop a quantum disruptor to break the mind wall, Earth simply sent them the plans for the disruptor and pointed out its flaws. No retaliation, no punishment, just defense. Slowly, other aggressive empires began to reconsider their philosophies. Why expand through conquest when it meant risking erasure by species like humanity? Why not trade instead? Why not cooperate? The Krell hegemony, its military pride shattered, began the slow transformation from empire to federation. They offered former conquered worlds independence. Many refused at first, expecting a trick. But gradually, as years passed with no retribution, they accepted. The galaxy became quieter, not because of force, but because humanity had demonstrated that the ultimate power was not the power to conquer, but the power to defend absolutely, and in doing so, they had made conquest itself seem pointless. 50 years after the fleet disappeared, a young Krell visited Earth as part of a student exchange. She stood in the memorial garden where a simple monument commemorated the event. 847 lights, one for each ship, glowing softly in the evening. An old human man stood nearby, also looking at the lights. He had been there that day, part of the 8 billion who had synchronized their thoughts. Do you regret it? The young Krell asked quietly. Erasing them? The man was silent for a long moment. Every day, he finally said. We gave them warnings. We gave them chances, but they came anyway, and we had to choose between our survival and theirs. We chose ours, but I wish they had turned back. My grandfather was in that fleet, the Krell said. Commander Thralvex. The man turned, surprise on his face. I learned about him from records, she continued. He was a good commander, honorable by Krell standards. He was just following his orders, doing what his culture told him was right. He didn't deserve to die. No, the man agreed. He didn't. None of them did. That's why we only defend. We never want to make this choice again. We never want to erase anyone again. They stood together in silence, human and Krell, looking at the lights. Things are better now, the young Krell said. Our empire is gone, but we're happier. We trade instead of conquer. We make things instead of taking them. My generation doesn't even understand why our ancestors wanted to rule the galaxy. The man smiled. Maybe that's the real lesson. Maybe power isn't about controlling others. Maybe it's about controlling yourself. Across the galaxy, this conversation was repeated in countless forms. The generation that grew up after the Krell fleet disappeared knew a different galaxy than their ancestors. A galaxy where aggression had consequences, where defense was absolute, where cooperation was valued over conquest. Humanity had not meant to change the galaxy. They had only meant to protect themselves. But in protecting themselves, they had shown every species a different way to exist. Earth remained behind its Mars boundary, neither conquering nor conquered, neither ruling nor ruled. just existing, peacefully, with the quiet confidence of a species that could defend itself absolutely but chose to do so only when necessary. And sometimes, on clear nights, humans would look up at the stars and remember. Remember the fleet that came. Remember the choice they made. Remember that with great power must come great restraint. 8 billion minds, thinking together, had changed reality. Now those same 8 billion minds chose, every day, not to use that power unless they must. That restraint, more than the power itself, was what made humanity truly remarkable.